Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, staring into the deep silence of space. Out beyond the silver horizon of the moon, a ship glided slowly into view. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built. No harsh angles. No metal plates or visible thrusters. Instead, its surface curved in seamless arcs, glowing with a soft, pulsing blue light, like the heartbeat of some living creature. Jake had been stationed here for 3 long years. His days were filled with monotony, monitoring deep space communications, logging asteroid mining shipments, and filing reports that no one on Earth really cared about. Yet all that routine ended 12 hours ago. A ship had appeared on their long-range sensors, transmitting a signal. Not a jumble of static or coded bursts, but language, one the station's computers somehow understood instantly. The message was shockingly polite. We request permission to dock. We wish to speak with representatives of Earth. Jake's hands had trembled when he relayed the signal to Earth Command. Within 6 hours, the orders came back. This was it. Humanity's first contact with alien life. The morning shuttle brought Dr. Lisa Hayes to the station. She was pale but determined, a linguist with a reputation as Earth's leading expert in communication. Her briefcase overflowed with hastily assembled translation devices and experimental software, all created in the past 10 hours by panicked scientists who knew the world was about to change. And then, it happened. The alien vessel docked with Luna Station using no visible propulsion, maneuvering with impossible elegance. Cameras captured every moment as the airlock hissed open. The figure that emerged was taller than any human, nearly 8 feet, with 4 arms and a body that gleamed like living metal. Its compound eyes shifted in color as it scanned the corridor. Through a strange, throat-like translator that emitted layered tones, the being introduced itself. I am Ambassador Zix Tal, of the Galactic Confederation. Jake's stomach nodded as he listened. The title sounded noble. But the way the alien's glittering eyes lingered on them felt more like a predator inspecting prey. In the conference chamber, Ambassador Zix Tal spoke with formal grace. Through the translation device, its many voices overlapped, then resolved into clear English. It came bearing greetings from a galactic civilization, the Confederation, a union of 43,000 inhabited worlds. Humanity, the ambassador explained, had been observed from afar for centuries. And now, at last, the Confederation deemed Earth ready to join. To join, but not as equals. Dr. Hayes asked careful, methodical questions. Jake recorded every answer. Zix Tal described the galaxy as carefully organized into categories. Governing species. Worker species. Protectorate species. Each had its place. Governing species, like the ambassador's own kind, made decisions for galactic society. Worker species performed manufacturing and resource extraction. Protectorate species were the newest additions, still primitive, still in need of guidance. When Hayes asked which category humanity fell into, the alien's compound eyes shimmered in a way Jake could only interpret as amusement. You are, of course, protectorates. Barely sentient by our standards. But you will be given safety, technology, and purpose, in exchange for resources. Purpose. Safety. It all sounded reasonable until the details emerged. Mining rights to Earth's moon and asteroids. A quota of human workers for off-world labor. And a promise that the Confederation would make major decisions on humanity's behalf, sparing us from what they considered our primitive tendencies toward chaos. Jake listened with a tightening gut. The alien spoke of humanity not as peers, but as livestock. Useful. Manageable. Replaceable. The meeting lasted 4 long hours. Zix Tal never raised its voice, never threatened. Yet every word carried the quiet weight of inevitability. If you decline now, integration will come later, by force. Voluntary submission ensures better treatment. The ambassador provided proof, records of species that had supposedly thrived under Confederation rule. Yet every entry was suspiciously incomplete. Jake noticed there was no mention of what those civilizations had been like before they joined. When the alien returned to its ship, silence gripped the humans in the conference room. This was no dream of cosmic brotherhood. This was conquest, hidden beneath courtesy. The report traveled instantly across secure quantum links. Within hours, emergency sessions lit up across every capital on Earth. The public knew nothing yet. History's most important decision was being made behind closed doors by leaders who were just as shaken as Jake and Hayes. President Helen Carter formed a crisis team, military commanders, scientists, diplomats. The verdict was grim. The Confederation controlled tens of thousands of worlds. Their technology bent the laws of physics. A direct war meant extinction. Protectorate status might be humiliating, but survival came first. And yet, not everyone agreed. General Marcus Stone, a hard-eyed veteran, raised the question no one wanted to face. What happens to protectorates once they submit? Why do their cultures vanish? Why do their people end up as laborers in alien factories instead of building their own futures? He pointed to the ambassador's request for human workers. The word echoed in the chamber like an accusation. Workers. Not citizens. Not partners. Slaves. Still, negotiations proceeded. Earth requested 6 months to prepare for integration. The time would be used to coordinate infrastructure and teach humanity its new role in the galaxy. Ambassador Zix Tal accepted the delay, almost mockingly. 6 months is generous. We can be patient with our newest acquisition. From that moment, Confederation specialists began setting up an embassy on Luna. Alien teams arrived to assess resources, catalog mining potential, and quietly evaluate human capabilities. They treated Jake and the station crew with cold politeness, like scientists observing animals in a lab. And Jake realized something terrifying: humanity was standing at a crossroads. In 6 months, Earth would either kneel, or find another path forward. While the world argued about cooperation, another effort was unfolding in secret. Beneath the Pentagon, Dr. Kevin Shaw worked in a sealed underground office. Around him, alien databases flickered across dozens of screens. Officially, his job was to study integration protocols. Unofficially, he was searching for weaknesses. His team called themselves the Assessment Group. Experts in linguistics, engineering, strategy. They sifted through every shred of Confederation data, looking for cracks in the facade. What they found chilled Shaw to the bone. Every species that joined the Confederation followed the same path. Protectorate status. Gradual extraction of resources. Worker quotas. Then relocation. Within 50 years, their homeworlds were stripped bare. Populations scattered across factory ships. Cultures dissolved into the background noise of galactic history. Integration, the Confederation called it. Shaw recognized it for what it was: systematic cultural erasure. Colonel Amy Rodriguez scoured military files. No protectorate species had ever successfully rebelled. Attempts at resistance were met with overwhelming force. Orbital bombardments. Precision strikes that erased entire cities. On paper, submission was survival. But Shaw saw the truth: it was simply a slower death. And that, viewer, is where humanity found itself, staring into the abyss of a choice that wasn't a choice at all. Do we bend the knee to an empire of 43,000 worlds, trading freedom for survival? Or do we gamble everything on resistance, against odds no rational species would ever face? This is where the story of humanity's first contact truly begins. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do, if you were in their place? Submit to survive, or fight against the impossible? Tell me in the comments, because this is the kind of question that defines what it means to be human. Dr. Kevin Shaw hadn't slept in days. His office deep beneath the Pentagon was little more than a bunker of humming servers and cold white light. Here, away from public eyes, he and his team sifted through the Confederation's digital veins, files gifted by Ambassador Zix Tal as integration guides. On the surface, the documents described logistics, mining quotas, cultural adjustment protocols, worker reallocation strategies. But buried in the technical data were glimpses of something else. Shaw leaned closer to the screen, rubbing his tired eyes. The Confederation wasn't just an empire. It was a machine. And protectorate species were not meant to survive it. Every race that joined eventually vanished. Not through war, but through quiet assimilation. Their languages archived, then forgotten. Their music, art, and history reduced to museum curiosities. Within 2 generations, they became obedient laborers. Shaw exhaled sharply. Integration wasn't survival. It was slow extinction. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison remained stationed at Luna, tasked with overseeing alien liaison teams. Every day, Confederation specialists walked the station's corridors, studying humans like zoologists observing clever animals. At first, Jake tried to remain professional. But the cracks in their polite facade soon became obvious. He overheard them speaking in untranslated tones, unaware of how easily the station's AI picked up fragments. Primitive neural patterns. Easily conditioned. Their lifespan is short, disposable. One phrase stuck with him, sharp as a blade. Humans are not citizens. They are assets. That night, Jake looked out the viewport at Earth, blue, fragile, alive. Assets. The word rolled in his mind until it turned to poison. The real breakthrough came weeks later. Dr. Lisa Hayes, still stationed on Luna, worked tirelessly to refine communication protocols. During a routine analysis of the Confederation's language streams, she noticed something strange. Layered subharmonics hidden beneath the words. At first, she thought it was noise. But with Shaw's help, the team discovered the truth. The Confederation embedded low-frequency signals into every broadcast. Not words. Not data. Influence. These signals resonated with certain neural pathways, subtly lowering aggression, dulling suspicion, and making listeners more compliant. For species with specific brain structures, the effect was overwhelming. Entire populations could be pacified with nothing more than a constant background transmission. Humans, however, were different. Our brains processed frequencies irregularly. The signals still affected mood, but not in predictable ways. Sometimes they induced calm. Other times, anxiety. And in rare cases, they triggered aggression instead of compliance. Hayes leaned back from her monitor, pale. We're noise to them. They can't fully control us. For the first time, Shaw allowed himself the faintest smile. It wasn't much. But it was a weakness. General Marcus Stone assembled the Crisis Council in a secure bunker beneath Colorado Springs. Shaw presented his findings, outlining the manipulation. The room was silent for a long time. Then Stone stood, his jaw like granite. They think they're farmers and we're cattle. But they've miscalculated. They don't understand what happens when you corner an apex predator. The words echoed. Humanity had not survived ice ages, plagues, and wars by submitting easily. Our species carried scars older than civilization. We were hunters, scavengers, survivors. And predators don't take kindly to cages. From that day, the resistance gained clarity. Earth could not outgun the Confederation. But maybe, just maybe, it could outthink them. Quietly, Earth mobilized. Not with grand fleets or open defiance, but with whispers in the dark. On the far side of the moon, mining stations repurposed their shipments. Titanium and rare elements vanished into hidden storage. In the asteroid belt, automated factories originally meant for commercial drones began producing something else, stealth craft. Small, agile, bristling with experimental weapons. Humanity's industry was primitive compared to the Confederation's, but it had one advantage: secrecy. The aliens didn't consider humans worth monitoring closely. Protectorates were not expected to resist. By the time alien inspectors grew suspicious, Earth already had shipyards hidden in deep orbit, powered down and camouflaged against starlight. Entire fleets of unmanned drones waited in silence, like wolves in the tall grass. Meanwhile, another campaign unfolded, not in space, but in the shadows of the galactic network. The assessment group began leaking subtle messages into Confederation data streams. Nothing overt. Just carefully crafted stories. Whispers of human unpredictability. Accounts of incidents where humans had reacted violently to neural conditioning. Reports of soldiers who fought even after mortal wounds. The messages spread slowly, blending into background chatter. To most Confederation citizens, they were rumors. To military analysts, they were warnings. Within months, the Confederation began circulating internal advisories. Exercise caution. Humans are resistant to compliance protocols. Their behavior is erratic. Jake saw the shift firsthand. Alien envoys who once regarded him with smug detachment now kept their distance, eyes glittering with unease. Guards carried heavier weapons. Conversations grew shorter. The seed of doubt had been planted. And in empires built on fear, doubt is poison. And then, humanity played its boldest card yet. In a covert operation codenamed Whisper, a human drone ship infiltrated the outskirts of a Confederation mining fleet near Jupiter. It didn't attack. Instead, it simply appeared, decloaking for a few minutes, transmitting a single message, and vanishing again. The message was chilling in its simplicity. We are awake. Within hours, rumors swept through Confederation command channels. Protectorates didn't build stealth ships. Protectorates didn't slip past patrols. Protectorates didn't send defiant messages. But humans had. Ambassador Zixtal summoned Jake and Hayes to the lunar embassy. Its compound eyes no longer shimmered with amusement. Instead, they darkened with something colder. You are not behaving as protectorates. This is unwise. Hayes met its gaze without flinching. Maybe you've misjudged us. The alien leaned forward, voice dropping to a growl of overlapping tones. Do not mistake patience for weakness. We have erased species far greater than yours. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Jake replied, softly but firmly. Maybe. But none of them were human. The words weren't bravado. They were truth. And Zixtal knew it. Behind closed doors, Confederation strategy councils debated fiercely. Humanity was a problem. But a small one. A backwater world. Barely a billionth the size of the galactic machine. Crushing us should have been trivial. And yet, unease spread. Reports of human unpredictability multiplied. Psychological resistance to neural conditioning. Rumors of stealth fleets. Whispers that Earth had allies, even though it did not. It didn't matter. The perception was enough. Fear began to ripple outward, subtle but unstoppable. And in that fear, humanity had found its weapon. This was no longer a story about submission. It wasn't even about war in the traditional sense. Humanity was rewriting the script, turning the Confederation's own psychology against them. For the first time in 500,000 years of galactic order, the machine hesitated. And hesitation is how empires fall. The silence didn't last. It never does. For a brief season, humanity believed it had turned the tide. Our whispers had seeded doubt. Our hidden fleets prowled the dark. The Confederation hesitated. For the first time in 500,000 years, the galactic machine slowed. But Earth had only pulled back the curtain. Behind the Confederation, behind all the empires and protectorates, lay something older. Something watching. Something that did not care who ruled. The first signs came quietly, as they always do. A Confederation listening post at the edge of Harari space stopped transmitting. Routine. Stations failed all the time. But when the investigation fleet arrived, there was nothing left. No debris. No wreckage. Just silence. The asteroid on which the outpost had been built was hollowed. As if something had tunneled through solid rock, leaving only a shell. The Confederation blamed human sabotage. A convenient answer. But even in private, their analysts whispered another possibility. One the Harari had warned about centuries ago. The architects. Dr. Shaw was the first to notice the anomaly. From his bunker beneath the Pentagon, he monitored alien transmissions, cataloging shifts in tone and strategy. Lately, however, something was different. Confederation fleets were pulling back from frontier sectors. Patrol routes were changing. Entire protectorates were being abandoned with little explanation. Shaw frowned at the patterns, heart pounding with an intuition he couldn't shake. They're not retreating from us. They're retreating from something else. When he shared the analysis, General Stone's expression turned grim. If the wolf steps back, it's not because the sheep are dangerous. It's because a lion is in the grass. Ambassador Zix Tal vanished without warning. In its place, a Harari vessel appeared in Earth orbit, uninvited, unannounced. The Harari were unlike any other species humanity had met. Tall, crystalline beings that refracted light like prisms, their voices harmonies of vibration rather than words. They had never aligned with the Confederation, nor opposed it. They had simply endured. Now, for the first time, they reached out directly. Inside the United Nations orbital chamber, the Harari envoy unfolded its crystalline arms and spoke. You awaken too late. The Confederation is not your enemy. It is merely their tool. The architects built the machine long ago. The machine harvests. The machine endures. And when the machine weakens, they return to correct it. The words sank into silence. Humanity had thought the Confederation was the final boss. Instead, it was only the mask. Jake Morrison leaned forward, voice steady. And what happens when they return? The Harari's crystals dimmed, a gesture that meant sorrow. Correction. Dr. Hayes pieced together fragments from Harari archives. Half myth, half memory, carved into crystal tablets older than human civilization. The story was simple, and terrifying. Long before the Confederation, the architects had shaped the galaxy. They uplifted some species, erased others, and seeded the neural frequencies that later empires would weaponize. Every few hundred millennia, they returned. Not to conquer, but to reset. Civilizations that grew too independent, too unpredictable, were dismantled. Reduced to silence. The Confederation itself might have been created for that purpose, a stable mechanism to keep the galaxy compliant until the architect's next cycle. And now, the cycle was overdue. The first human ships to encounter them didn't even realize it. A stealth drone fleet monitoring the Kuiper belt detected strange gravitational distortions. Not ships. Not weapons. Just shifts, like something massive passing between dimensions. Moments later, the feed cut off. Not destroyed. Not jammed. Simply erased. As though those ships had never existed. When analysts reviewed the data, one image remained. A silhouette burned into static. Impossible angles, shapes that seemed to twist as you looked at them. No clear edges. No familiar geometry. The file was marked with a single word, architect. General Stone gathered the council again. The mood was heavier than ever. We thought we were fighting for independence from the Confederation. Now we're fighting for survival against something that considers the Confederation expendable. Shaw shook his head. Not survival. Relevance. If the architects truly reset civilizations, then resistance may not even register to them. We're ants on the floorboards. The question is, do we step aside, or do we bite? Jake Morrison clenched his fists. Ants don't build stealth fleets. Ants don't seed fear into empires. Maybe that's exactly why we have a chance. For the first time in 500,000 years, cracks spread through the Confederation. Worlds whispered of abandoning the machine. Protectorates rebelled. Fleets splintered. The architect's shadow grew. And in that shadow, humanity became something unexpected, a rallying point. Species long subdued by neural frequencies turned their gaze toward Earth. Not because humanity was strong, but because humanity was different. Resistant. Defiant. A species that refused to vanish quietly. The galaxy began to murmur the unthinkable. Maybe the humans can lead. Then, it happened. In the background hum of galactic transmissions, a new signal emerged. Subtle at first, then growing stronger. Not Confederation. Not human. Something older. Lisa Hayes isolated the wave, her hands trembling. It wasn't words in any language, but the structure was unmistakable, designed, intentional, intelligent. When rendered into visual form, the pattern revealed geometry far too precise to be chance. Triangles nested within circles, recursive spirals, impossible tessellations. And at the center, a single glyph repeated endlessly. The mark of the architects. On a quiet night, Jake stood again at Luna's viewport, staring at the fragile blue Earth. He thought of his ancestors who once looked up at the stars and saw only gods, demons, and myths. Now, humanity had found something that was all three, and worse. But he also thought of the other truth: humans had always been underestimated. By nature. By empires. By history itself. Maybe the architects saw us as irrelevant. But so had every empire before. And yet, here we stood. Jake whispered into the silence, not to anyone in particular, but to the vast, watching dark. We are not your cattle. We are not your assets. We are humanity. And we are awake. The words vanished into the void. But somewhere, far beyond human reach, something stirred. And listened. The silent war was never the end. It was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, not fleets, not even defiance. It was the refusal to be forgotten.